Do you want a supplier management system for your business, but you don't want to pay for an expensive third-party system? Well, in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how you can build one using SharePoint. This system will allow you to track things like incoming inspections, as well as performance scorecards for all of your suppliers. My name's Dougie Wood, and I'm a Microsoft MVP. I've been building out solutions like this in SharePoint for the past 20 years. I've also been working with people building out quality management systems for ISO 9001. So if you need a system like this building, then you can get in contact with me for a free consultation using the link in the description below.
Now, I'm going to be building my supplier management built into my quality management or QMS system on SharePoint. Now, you can obviously do this completely separately if you wanted to, if you're not building QMS, but I'm just going to show you what I've been up to. Essentially, this is a full QMS system which will have audits, non-conformances, investigations and root causes, as well as corrective and preventative actions, and a risk register as well, which manages all the risks involved. And I'm going to be building out my supplier management within this system. As I say, you could do this completely separately if you wanted to. So I'm going to start this off. I'm actually going to be building out a number of different SharePoint lists. I'm going to be building out a supplier master list. So this is where all my suppliers live. I'm going to be building out performance scorecard so I can keep track probably on a monthly basis on what my suppliers are providing me. And then I'm going to be looping this into, as I say, we have an audit component of the QMS already. So I'm just going to be looping that in. And then I'm going to be building out a bit of a page which ties all of this together to make it much easier to report on and see all in one place. So I say the first thing I need to do is build out my SharePoint list for my supplier. And this is going to be my master list for suppliers. So I'm going to click on list and I'm going to call this my supplier. I'm just going to call my suppliers list. Call it suppliers master list. So you can do whatever you like. I'm going to add it to the top navigation bar. It's not necessarily going to stay up there, but just whilst I'm building, I find it much easier to add to that navigation bar across the top. I'm going to come back and design the QMS homepage so it's easier to access later on. Anyway, so now I need to add my fields. Now, I want to have an ID number per supplier, so it's much easier to refer to them. However, there is a ID system that's already built into SharePoint, so every SharePoint item that you add into a list will automatically have an ID anyway. So I'm just going to add that into the view of my list, and you can see that's at the front. The title, I'm actually just going to rename this to be our supplier name. Again, I can use this in a number of different places, but it just means it's much easier to pull through into some other areas later on. I'm probably going to want to just document here some general kind of CRM type of information in terms of the contact person's name, phone number, things like that. So I'm just going to put this as our contact name. So this is our like primary contact person. Maybe we have another one, which is our primary phone number. You could have secondary phone numbers, things like that if you wanted to. I'm just going to keep it simple for now. Primary email address for them, for that contact. And again, if I really wanted to, I could break this out into, for example, I could have my suppliers company list, suppliers contact list. I could break this out, but I'm just trying to aim for this to be as simple as possible. So all the information is just in one place. Then I'm going to have our kind of product type. Now, again, this is completely configurable. Totally up to you what you have in here. But I can say categories, and categories might be, for example, raw material. It could be components. Oh, that was a good spell. Or just general kind of services type of thing. I'm then going to have the qualification status. So again, for this, you could take it through like an approval process or something like that, but we just want to document it. Again, we're just trying to get the simplest possible solution. So qualification status, again, it's pretty useful actually. I can just right click and just use spell check, just to spell check that, because I'm making spell checks all the time. So if you're watching any of my other videos of this QMS build, you'll know that my spelling is absolutely atrocious. So the first choice would probably be pending, then we've probably got approved or rejected. we make this red. And the default value would probably be pending, because when they're first added in here, they've not yet got their qualification status. Date approved, reviewed, something that you might want to add. So when were they actually like onboarded? So you might call this an onboarding date or approval date, for example. Expiry or maybe requalification date is something else. So we'll call this review date. And for the system that I'm building out for our customers, we would have a workflow that would give automatic review dates based on this as well. So this brings us to the kind of the next thing, which is our kind of owner. So this would be like the internal owner of this particular supplier. So who's going to be kind of owning that relationship, and it will just send a reminder to them to say that they need to come in and just review this and update the date that they've been approved. Assessment score. So you might have a rating in here, or you don't necessarily have to have that. You could also put some like multiple lines of text if you want any notes or remarks or anything like that about that particular supplier. I quite like to use the comments feature, and I'll show you that in a moment. So I'm not necessarily going to put the notes in. And you don't necessarily need to have another attachment field, because there is an attachments field that's just built into this as well. So let's now create a couple of different suppliers so we can use these going forward. So there's two ways we can do this. Now, if you've already got these columns mapped out somewhere, maybe in an Excel spreadsheet, you could go into edit in grid view, and you could actually just paste them in. As long as the fields are in the right order, you can just paste them in from a spreadsheet, or you could just edit this and use it like it's a spreadsheet, or you can use it add new item form. Now I like to do this because I think it's just a bit easier in terms of in terms of being able to see all the fields in one place. So for example, we're going to create our first supplier, which in this case just made up Apex Metals, contact name. Let's put Sarah Johnson, primary phone number, like so, primary email address, just make up an email address, category, let's go with raw material, qualification status, well, in the real world, obviously, they would all start off as pending. That's why it's defaulting to that. But we could, just for the data's sake, maybe let's say this one's approved, and it was approved, let's say it was approved on Friday. Now, we would, as part of the system, have an automated thing in place to say that there'll be a review date based on that last approval date that automatically get populated. So for most people, it's probably like every 12 months they want to review their suppliers. But you could set it to any date that you like. But let's just say, for example, this is going to be 12 months. But as I say, we would have a workflow that would be in place that would automatically do that. Internal owner. So I'm just going to say myself, I'm going to own this. And then any attachments. If there's any kind of like NDAs, any agreements, anything like that, we can attach them directly to this supplier record. Then click on save, and there we go. We've got our record in place. Now, I'm actually just going to use a bit of magic here, pause the video and create a few more records just so you can see what this looks like when it's populated. If you're interested in this system, then we do deploy it at a fixed price to our customers. Get in touch for a free demo using the link in the description below. So there we go, like magic, we've just shot forward in time and I've just created these items. So now what we can do with this is we can view this in a couple of different ways. So say, for example, we're looking for a certain type of supplier. Maybe we're looking for a supplier that provides us raw materials. We can then quickly find these and we can see that actually Apex is our only approved raw material supplier at the moment. So that's just one way of looking at it. We can clear those filters. Maybe I'm interested to only see the list of approved suppliers so far, so we can just filter by them and see all of those in one place. Or maybe as a kind of owner of these suppliers, I might want to just see where I own that relationship, and I can see these two here, so I can see I've got something pending. So you can see there's multiple ways you could slice and dice this information to actually make it very useful. I like to just make sure everything's neat and tidy, save up that view, and there we go. We've got our suppliers list. So now we can start thinking about what other lists we're going to need as part of our supplier management system. So the next thing I'm going to create is going to be our supplier performance scorecard. Now, I say every organization I work with is slightly different about how they want to approach this, but it all follows a very similar kind of path. Quite often it's like monthly kind of checks, and it might be, say, project managers or other types of people that are actually doing checks on their suppliers that they're working with on a day-to-day basis. So what I'm going to do is create a list, and this is going to be my supplier performance scorecard list. So click on this, and then I'm going to call this my supplier performance scorecard. So let's just make sure that's spelled right. Click on create, and that's just going to create me my blank SharePoint list. Then what I'm going to do is actually I don't necessarily need an ID. There is an ID obviously in the background I can pull out at any time, but what I do need is I need to link it actually to that supplier list. So I'm going to use a lookup for this, and then I'm actually going to select supplier, select the supplier list. There we go. And then I'm actually going to use the title. So this will be the supplier's name that pulls through. But we can actually choose as well if we wanted to pull through any other number of type of fields from that list. So say, for example, we might want to have the primary contact's name, phone number, and email address automatically being pulled through to this list, so we can see this against the scorecard. So if the scorecard was low, we've got that contact information directly there straight away. So you can see this automatically pulls through now from that list. We might choose to drop this off later on down the line if there's too many fields, because we can always, as I say, jump in and see the supplier information at any time. Let's just see how we get on. Cool. So the next thing that we would want to do for this particular list is select what kind of month or year that the performance scorecard was taking place. Now, just to make it easy, I'm going to use a date field. I'm going to call this my report date. Don't necessarily need to include time. Default value, maybe we just set this today's date. So you can always change it. Now there is a default field in SharePoint called created, which is basically just the created date of the item. But I like to make sure that we can change this. So say, for example, if we were actually started this a few days before, but we just not had a chance to put it into SharePoint, we can always change the date in this way. So I'm going to select this as report date. The next field then that I'm going to want to put into the system is the on-time delivery. So I can put this maybe just as a yes/no field. So I could say delivered on time, yes or no. Default yes or no. So we'll say yes for now. Then click on save. We would likely also want things like quality defects. So yes or no field again. Yes or no. So we'll probably just set this to no by default. Because again, it just means it's a lot speedier when it comes to actually completing this. So the most likelihood is that there will be no defects, but we can always change that obviously if there was any defects at play. Compliance issues. So again, yes or no. Again, by default, we'll say no. Next up, we would have score rating. So, I mean, this is down to you how you want to calculate this. And obviously, these fields can be completely changed for your specific needs. But I'm just going to go with a choice field and put rating high. That's probably the other way around, isn't it? So let's go low, medium, high. And again, we can change the colors of these as well. So if it was high, we probably want to go for sort of a bright green color, medium, maybe an orange, low, we're going to say red. Click on save. So we've got our rating now. And then we can add notes and things like that using the kind of comments field. So what I'm going to do now is create a new supplier performance scorecard. Now to do this, the best way would just be to click the Add New Item button. Now we don't necessarily need the title in here, but sometimes you might want to put a little bit of a title, a bit of a kind of description or month or something like that, maybe that's there, or maybe the product that's come from that supplier that month, or whatever it may be. So I'm just going to put in here example scorecard for now. Supplier. So I would just need to select the supplier from the list. So in this case, it says Apex Metals. The report date is automatically defaulting to today's date. But as I say, I could always change it. So if I was a bit naughty and it should have been Thursday, I could go back and select that date if I wanted to. Then I've got, was it delivered on time? Yes, it was. Any quality defects? Yes, there were. Or unticked is no, there wasn't. Compliance issues? No, there wasn't. Rating overall, I'm quite happy. Something selected high. We can also attach attachments to this at any point in time as well. So as long as we're happy with that, we just click on save, and there we go. We've got our first record. Now, again, I'm just going to pause this, create a few more kind of records, just so we've got a couple of different things in here that we can use in the next stage. So there we go. We've now got our supplier performance scorecards. Now, what we can do with this, I say, we can then see it's automatically pulling through the supplier contact name, the primary phone number, and the primary email. I've not had to populate that. It's just pulling it directly from this record. Now, I can always click on that supplier record and actually go and see the full details. If I want to do it, opens up another tab. So I can see the full Safe Tech Services details, which is pulling from our suppliers list. So just cross out of this and go back. Now again, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a few more records now and pretend that they're from different dates going back, so that when we come to filter by say Apex Metals later on, we can actually see almost like their track record of performance. So there we go, we've got a few more records now. So again, if I wanted to say, look at the overall performance of say Apex, I could filter by Apex Metals, click on apply, and then I can see here quite clearly that we've got all our performance records here. Again, we could add more columns down here if you wanted to, if you anything else you were tracking, but I could see here that actually we've been fairly happy with them with a high rating, other than, let's say, for example, earlier this year where maybe things weren't delivered on time, so they got a low performance rating. But overall, we're fairly happy with them as a supplier. The next thing we'd want to do is integrate the suppliers into our audit system. So for this, what I would do is go into our audit list, or live audits list. You can see here we've got a number of fields: audit reference, clause, system, documents that need to be audited, plan date, actual date, things like that. And what I would do is I would add in a new field, which basically is going to look up our supplier. So our suppliers list, and pull out the supplier name and use that. And then basically, if we were to have any audit items which are related to a supplier, it means that we can then tag them with that supplier and then pull them through later down the line to sort of show and evidence that they have been audited. So let's create a quick audit item. Now, starting off with this, obviously not every audit is going to involve a supplier. So we put the supplier field down here. It's not actually required, but I can select, for example, Apex here, and the audit reference. Of course, we can put anything we wanted to in here, which is going to make sense for you, but I'm just going to put Apex Metals. I think I'll put 2026 audit, for example, and then the clause we're going to put in here our ISO 9001 clause. The system, we're going to put supplier quality management, documents to audit, going to be and this is where this could actually be a rich text field, so you could actually hyperlink the documents that you actually are auditing in here if you wanted to. You put your plan date, so I'm going to say I'm going to plan to do this say next week, started not, so say it's in progress, the auditor, I'm going to say it's myself, auditee. Now, typically this is a field, again, if you're using it for like internal use, but you could have another kind of field which maybe just says, oh, this is for a supplier, so you don't necessarily need this auditee field. Or maybe you put in here somebody else who is part of that kind of supplier sort of manager, type of account manager field. Finding type. So on this case, we'll say there was a non-conformance. The actual date that was performed, so actually it was a week later they've actually performed it. We can put finding description. So maybe we could say something along the lines of the supplier. Whoops, the supplier failed to provide timely inspections. Severity of this, we're going to say it is major severity. And again, we've already linked our supplier here, so we can click on save. And there we go. We've then got our supplier related audit item. So again, we're going to pull this together later on so we can see this, but at least we've now got that somewhere documented. And then the final thing that we want to build is going to be our incoming inspection list for our supplier. So again, I'm going to go to site contents and I'm going to create a brand new list. And this is going to be a blank list and it is going to be called our incoming inspection. So maybe call it supplier incoming inspection, just so it's obvious what it is. Again, we're taking up a lot of room across the top navigation bar at the moment, but don't worry about that. In another video, I'm actually going to show you how we're building out the home page's QMS, and this is all going to be simplified with a bit of a mega menu and a drop down to make it much easier to navigate. So the fields that I'm then going to add, so we need an ID, an inspection ID. Now this is, as I say, going to use the default SharePoint ID because every item in a SharePoint list is unique and has its own unique ID that can never be replaced. It's always going to be unique to that item. We're going to specify which supplier it is. So I'm going to look up and we're going to specify which supplier it will be. So we're going to select our suppliers list and we can select their title. So it's the name of the supplier and that'll be pulled through automatically there. Then we're going to select, now this could be, say, a material or a part number or something like that. I'm just going to call this product for now, just to make it easier, but it could be material, part number, things like that. You might have additional kind of fields for things like the batch or things like that. So maybe let's just add in product for now, and then maybe let's just add another one for batch, batch number, whoops, into here. And then we're going to have our date field. So we're going to have a receive date. Again, my spelling is terrible. There we go. We might want to include the time that it was received as well. Click on save. And then we're going to have the quantity received. So this might be a number. Quantity. Click on save. What else we will have? Inspection result. So actually, as a result, what happened? So it might be we have pass, fail, maybe there's a partial delivery or partial fail. So let's put that as an orange, red, and green. There we go. So we've got our result. Then we're going to have who is the inspector. So we're going to put inspector, and this is a people field, so it's going to look someone up and put them into this field. We could also have a non-conformance report item that's linked to this if we wanted to. So what we'll do is, let's say, for example, if we create a non-conformance report in our NCR register, we would want to look that up. So NCR link, and we will link to our NCR system, NCR register, and it would probably most likely be the ID that you would want to pull through from this. So again, you might create this record and then go and create the NCR in the register and then come back to the supplier inspection to link it to that, just to make it easier to find later down the line as well. We could also want to document what action potentially was taken as a result of this at a high level. There might be that a corrective or preventative action is actually created from this later down the line, but at a high level, you might want to just document what the action is going to be for this. And then we can add any attachments as we go along. So let's now create a couple of incoming inspections. Again, I'm going to pause the video just to show you what this looks like. So there we go. We've created a couple of supplier incoming inspection forms now, and you can see we've linked them directly to the suppliers. We've got the product, the batch, the received, the quantity, and the actual results. So these ones are passed, so there's no follow-up actions, whereas this one has failed, and as a result, we have created a record in our NCR register with a high-level action of what we need to do, as in quarantine the batch and also raise the NCR, so we can see we can link directly to that NCR to get the kind of full details and things like that of that particular issue as well. So now what I want to do is I want to actually create a page where I'm going to tie together all of this information to make it much easier and simpler to get a high-level overview of what's going on for each supplier. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go back to my homepage. I say this is just basic at the moment, it's just out of the box. I've not yet built the QMS homepage. That will be in a later video. So obviously subscribe to get access to viewing that. But I'm going to create a page, and this I'm just going to create as a standard issue page, but there's obviously loads of different templates that we can choose if we wanted to. So this is going to be my supplier management page. If you're interested in this system, then we do deploy it at a fixed price to our customers. Get in touch for a free demo using the link in the description below. Don't need my name on here. I also don't think that we need to have any form of kind of image across the top up here. Whoops, just lost my title. So what I'm going to do is just change the page just a bit. Supplier manager, I don't think we need a lot extra on the page right now. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in all of the lists that I've created so far for my supplier. So list, and then I'm going to select first off my supplier list. I'm going to duplicate. In fact, I'm just going to add in a couple more. So just add in another list, like so. Oh, I'll come back to that in a moment. So select our list, and we've got our supply list already. So we have our supply performance cards. We're going to add in. Oops. So we've got our supplier list, performance card, supplier incoming inspection. For now, I'm just going to publish that just so we've got the page saved. So we've got our supplier list, performance card, and our incoming inspections. So now what I want to do is I want to have it so that when I select one of my suppliers in this list, it will filter the performance scorecards and the incoming inspections. So to do this, we click on Edit. We scroll down. In fact, I'm just going to remove this property list. I'll come back to that actually. So I'm going to select this area here, which is our performance scorecard. We select dynamic filtering. We want to filter based on the supplier. The list to do this on this page is the suppliers list, and what we're going to be filtering by is actually the supplier name. Click on apply. We've applied that, and we're just going to do the same thing to this web part as well. So it's going to be dynamic. We're going to filter based on the supplier. We're going to filter based on the supplier list and by the supplier name. So there we go. So we've now got that updated. So then all I then need to do is click on republish. And then once I select a supplier, say Apex, you can then see all of the scorecards will then filter and all of the incoming inspections will then filter. So I would probably want to tidy up this page just a little bit, just to make it a little bit easier to view. So I'll probably just take away those components down there so you can't see the comments on the page. Then all we need to do is click on the republish button, and there we go. We've then got our supplier management page. nice and set up. Now you can remove like some of these top areas if you want to, if you want to neat up a bit further, but then it's just nice and easy now that we can jump in and we can quickly dive into what's going on per supplier. So rather than having all of these across the top, what I'll more than likely do is I'd actually just copy this, I'd go up to the top, add in our supplier page, call it supplier, call it supplier management, click on OK, then remove all of these other areas. I say we don't need them, is it just clogging up all of this? And then as I say, I can jump directly then from say any other areas of my QMS directly into my supplier management. But I can add a new supplier to my list. I can add a new performance scorecard. I can add an incoming inspection, and I can filter based on just selecting them across the top as well.
If you enjoyed that video, please do subscribe. Also, continue to watch me build out a QMS in SharePoint by clicking on the video on the screen now. See you there.